Hey, friends and future authors. This is Lynn, Liquidity Smart, just back for another episode of Self-Publishing for Thought Leaders. And I'm so glad to join you today because today I have a kind of scary but need to know episode that you definitely want to hear. So today's episode is going to be about don't get caught in a hybrid publisher horror story, the things you need to know before you sign on with any publisher, hybrid or traditional. But before we jump into the topic today, my friends, I have noticed that authors don't get enough support out there. Like, you guys need better support. You need better information. You need no fluff, no BS information to get you from your idea to published author. And that's what I offer in my school community. So School, SKOOL, is a community platform, and I've got self-publishing for leaders on there for authors like you who want to get their nonfiction book or their fiction book published, but it's mainly dedicated towards nonfiction authors. I have authors in there with short stories. I have poets. I've got business authors in there. So if you're a business thought leader and you are looking to get the right information to publish your book, definitely come over to school.com, SKOOL, or click on the link underneath this video or audio in the show notes. You will find self-publishing for leaders link there. Come join the community. It's free to join. I have lots of great workshops and upcoming guest events on inside the school community. You'll absolutely love it. So today we're going to talk about horror stories I have heard from people who have gone with different publishers. Now, this is not to say that every publisher out there is bad or every publisher out there is fill in the blank, right? I don't like to generalize things, but as in any legal contract you sign, you want to make sure that the information in the legal contract is what, if you understand it and you understand the parameters and you know what you can and can't do with that contract. I would highly recommend getting a literary lawyer to look over any contract before you sign it. Or you can also reach out to Gordon Firemark. He's an entertainment lawyer. He has been on this show talking about the legal use of AI in books. I would definitely recommend reaching out to him, tell him Lynn Liquidity sent you, and he can definitely assist you in looking over any contract and tell you what the legal terms are. And then you can decide for yourself if that's a legal contract that you are ready to jump into. So first, we'll talk about some horror stories. So number one horror story, well, not ranking as in this is the worst one, but the first one I want to tell you about is one of my friends in the podcasting industry. He had written a couple of books on podcasting. He's in the Podcast Hall of Fame. He's very famous in podcasting. Everybody in the industry knows him. And he was writing an additional book. And so a publishing company, a hybrid publishing company, actually reached out to my friend and said, hey, we want you to write a book about monetizing podcasts, because several years ago, that was, I mean, it's still big, but it was just becoming really big. And so they reached out to him and asked him to write a book on it. And I said, definitely get a lawyer to look over it. I can't remember if he did or not. Anyway, he read through the contract and realized they were trying to take his audiobook rights. They were trying to take his international rights. And they told him he needed to write the book in 6 months, which he did. And then they took a year and a half, that is 18 months, to edit his book, which is absolutely ridiculous. No publishing company should take 18 months to edit a book. And he's not a bad writer. It's not like he's a bad writer. It took them that long. They literally just drugged their feet for 18 months. And he literally spent 6 months writing a book and then had to wait another year and a half after that to publish it. That is unprofessional. So if you are signing a contract with any publisher, hybrid, traditional or otherwise, make sure you understand what the publishing timeline is on their part and what they're going to do to get your book published in a timely fashion. So that was a really big thorn in his side. Another one was literally he had no choice over his book cover, and his book cover ended up being block letters with 2 colors. Very uninteresting, very simple, easy to read, but not interesting at all and not an attention grabber. So that's another thing, is see what types of creative control that they want you to give up and definitely negotiate on that. Do not accept anything that you don't like, which is why I always recommend for my authors to, especially new authors, to self-publish their first book, because you have complete creative control over it. So if there is a company that's looking to, that wants to, support you, a hybrid publisher in your book, make sure you have creative control over what book cover you choose. I have one author in my school community, self-published Publishing for Leaders right now, who she is grappling with her publisher because her publisher made her a book cover, which is absolutely boring and no one likes it. She made a book cover that's very, very interesting. And she took a poll of all her current readers because she has multiple books and they all picked her book cover. No one picked the publisher's book cover. And she told them, look, I made a poll and everybody picked my book cover and I want to go with this book cover, and they're hassling her on it. So make sure you have some control over what book cover you get to choose for your book, because a lot of times the hybrid publishing companies, we're going to go with some mediocre vanilla cover that's not very interesting. And your book cover and the back description on the back cover of your book are the two items, my friends, that will sell your book or not sell your book, and it will do it in 10 seconds or less. Let me say that one more time. The back cover of your book and your front cover, your visuals on your book, and your back cover description are the two biggest elements that are going to sell your book. If you don't have those down and you don't have interesting back cover written up and you don't have an interesting cover for someone to look at, your book will not sell, no matter how good your content is in between the pages. So make sure that if that's really important to you, you have creative control over that in your contract. Another horror story I will tell you about is another author in my community. She had a contract with a different publisher that she's currently using. Now it's a different publisher she went with before. She thought everything was fine and then ended up not getting any payments from any royalties from any of the books she sold because there was something in her contract and the company isn't responding to her. So another thing is, make sure if you're going with a hybrid publisher, they have been in business for several years and they are a reputable publisher, because a lot of the horror stories I'm hearing are brand new publishers that are 3 years or under, and they don't have either the financial backing or they don't run their business well. And they, sign on author books and then they don't have the funds to go through with selling it long term. And so then the author's left with, their book being stuck with a publisher that doesn't exist. And even worse, another horror story I've heard from several authors is that their publisher created their Amazon KDP account. Now, Amazon, if you have an Amazon account that you purchase things through, you use that Amazon account to create your KDP Kindle Direct Publishing account. And that means that is the account that you are using to self-publish your book. Now, it should be under your name and you should have full control of it, whether you go with a hybrid or traditional publisher or you're self-publishing. No matter what form of publishing you have or you're deciding to go with, you should have complete control over that account. I have heard several authors and have talked to several authors one-to-one who their hybrid publisher literally created their account and they have no control over it. That is no bueno, my friend. You want to have complete control over your publishing account on KDP. The publisher should not have control and they should not be creating that account for you. You should be creating the account and then you can give them access to your account, but they should not create your account, because then you have no control over it. And then you have no control over anything that goes on in your Kindle Direct Publishing account, which is not a good business move. And it is not a good move for you as an author. So you want to make sure you protect your rights, protect your access to all of your accounts, especially your Kindle Direct Publishing account. My friends, this is a shorter episode, but I did want to share with you one really quick item. My school community, which I mentioned earlier in the podcast, one of the things I love about my school community is my authors can come in here. They can ask me questions such as the ones I'm telling you about right here on this podcast, right? Should I go with this hybrid publisher? This hybrid publisher wants me to do this in their contract. Do you think that's okay or legitimate? I will give you my honest opinion and advice every time inside my school community. You get lots of great marketing advice. You get lots of great self-publishing advice. You can post any questions you have in the writing, editing, and feedback category, and I will answer them for you. You'll get feedback from the community, which is really helpful. And we have a lot of really great workshops that are available at the free level. And then we have a premium and a VIP if you're really serious about being a professional author and you want to come across as a professional in your field and distinguish yourself from all the other people in your business vertical. So definitely check out my school community, Self-Publishing for Leaders, to get ahead and to get the right information you need for writing and self-publishing your book. All right, so let's talk about more horror stories from hybrid publishers. And before we do talk about more horror stories, I just want to mention super quickly, there are two hybrid publishers I do trust and send my clients to. One is Melanie from Elite Online Publishing. She works with her co-owner of the company, and they assist authors in publishing their books. I recommend them for book marketing. I trust Melanie. I know she does a great job, and she's honest and upfront, authentic and genuine person to deal with. I really like her, and I definitely recommend her for if you're looking for a hybrid publisher. Elite Online Publishing is a great choice. Another great choice is Morgan James Publishing. I know the owner personally. I know that he does what's right for his authors. I know he is also a published author, and I've talked to him and have interviewed Terry Whalen, who is part of that company, and he has talked about the 10 myths of self-publishing or, going with a publisher on my podcast. So those are two legitimate hybrid publishers I know are good, and they are honest, and they do right by their authors. So those are two. If you want me to introduce you to them, please just message me through my website, www.writeforyou.me, and just let me know, hey, Lynn, can you please introduce me to one of these hybrid publishers? I'd be glad to do that for you. Okay, so more horror stories. I was talking to an author at FinCon, which is a financial creators conference I go to every September. And she was telling me about her book. So she is a financial creator. She helps women after they get divorced or going through a big life change with their she's a financial coach and helps them with their finances to get their finances back online if they need to do that, or, figure out a new plan for them. She had a great book and a great title. I loved her message in her book. She was telling me all about it. And then she was telling me her horror experiences with the publisher she signed up with. So first of all, she had little to no creative control over anything. So they developed a cover for her book. Now her book is for women who are professionals who are going through changes mainly in midlife and need to get a new handle, a new perspective on their finances. And she's a financial coach, right? So, but their book cover they made for her were three women in bikinis on a beach with martini cocktails in their hands. No one who is a professional who wants financial advice is going to pick that book cover. So she ended up having to pay out of her pocket $5,000 for someone to create her a new book cover within a week because it was a rush job because they had a publishing schedule. So that was $5,000 extra dollars she had to pay. And then she realized after the fact that her contract did not give her any royalties for 2 to 3 years. So she was marketing her book and putting in all the time and effort to market her book and got zero royalties for 2 to 3 years on her book. And now she's really sad and she's really upset because she has this book she published 4 years ago that she's hardly made any money on. She actually hasn't made any money on. She's still in debt for it because she had to pay extra expenses for the book cover and extra expenses for another editor because their editor didn't do a good job. A lot of times, my experience with some hybrid publishing companies is they just go with the cheapest person for editing. They don't look at qualifications. They don't look at quality of work. They just want to get in and out for the cheapest price so they can make the most profit on their authors. And that is not a great business model to have if you want authors who are satisfied with the work. There's been so many times, my friends, where I have gone in and edited after other people who said they were professional editors, and their book was not professionally edited. One of my clients I'm working with right now went with a hybrid publisher last year, and they said, quote, I don't want to edit your book because I don't want to change your voice, end quote. There were spelling mistakes in his book. There were very common mistakes in every chapter. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 mistakes because no book that you ever edit is going to be perfect. There's typically 3 or 4 mistakes in every book, even the ones that come from the big 5 publishers. And that's because it's very impossible to have a perfect book unless you mull over it for months, and nobody wants to do that. That's just perfectionism, and that's not a rabbit hole you want to go down, my friend. So don't look for perfectionism. You're going to have a few mistakes. Maybe a comma's missing. That's fine. But you don't want mistakes in every chapter. You clearly want your book edited. So my client that I'm working with now to rewrite his book, he actually the hybrid publisher he went with previously told him that they didn't want to edit his book to change his voice and style. Well, guess what? You can edit your book without changing your voice and style. I do it all the time for my clients. So that was a BS excuse they gave him because he paid for editing, and now they didn't hire anybody to edit his book because they wanted to make more money off of him, which is completely unethical and not okay and not good business practice. And I would never recommend that hybrid publisher. I actually don't even know their name to recommend them. But if any hybrid publisher you talk to refuses to edit your book because they quote unquote don't want to change your voice or style, that is a BS excuse. Go the other way. Another big red flag is if they are unwilling to change anything in their contract or unwilling to negotiate, if they are unwilling to talk to you about any of the points of their contract, or if they are not wanting to give you any creative control over your book. That is absolutely not okay. You definitely don't want to sign a contract with them. My friends, I hope this has been helpful in giving you some little more information about looking for a hybrid publisher if you feel like that's the way you want to go. Again, I always recommend my clients self-publish their first book, and that's what I help my clients with. I empower them with the knowledge and the know-how they need to successfully self-publish their book and to be confident in the publishing process, not just to publish it and be like, gee, I hope I did it right, to publish it and say, I know I did this right. I'm confident in the process. I'm confident that my book is going to be representative of who I am and increase my reputation, get me more speaking gigs and get me better paid speaking gigs and get me the recognition I am looking for amongst my verticals and my peers in my profession. So friends, I hope this has been a super helpful episode for you. Again, if you're looking for author support, go to school.com, SKOOL, look for self-publishing for leaders. Join the free group today. And if you're stuck and you're not sure where to go with your next book, jump in my community and stop hitting those roadblocks to self-publishing. Post them there and I will answer them for you. Come join me inside Self-Publishing for Leaders today so you can add author to your bio before the end of the year. All right, my friends, jump in now. I would love to see you in my school community. And until next week, this is Lynn Aliquity reminding you to keep writing, keep dreaming, and keep creating. Your book is waiting to be born.